Alma, can you put your hand up so Mark can see you? So Alma, when you think about yourself and your personal professional brand, name a couple of your strengths.
I think one of my strengths is that I'm a listener, I'm compassionate, I have empathy, and that I relay a message very well where I feel trustworthy.
Good. Excellent. All good traits. Weaknesses. Where's a couple of weaknesses? Name one. Just one.
Very opinionated, so sometimes I do need to learn to pull back.
Okay. So just as we craft that just slightly differently, not only to your outside audience, but to yourself psychologically, I would say I have strong opinions instead of very opinionated. Okay. The third one, opportunities. Where are opportunities for you?
So currently right now, since I just took the position that I currently have with the Latin American in Utah, as the Director of Corporate Relations, I've never worked in the Chamber, I've never worked in this type of environment, so the opportunities for me are just taking me from a level 5 to a level 15 as far as one of my biggest passions has been to help people, help organizations, and help people grow. I think working with the chambers and what their vision and goals are provides me those opportunities. So I guess it's just more growth in a lot of different areas and to use my skills to bring them to a higher level.
Okay. Do you feel that there are any threats in your career as it relates to your brand?
Can you define what you mean by threat?
Yeah, sort of something that externally may be coming down the tracks that jeopardizes your whole existence in space. So, for example, before these things right here, computers, what existed?
Typewriters.
And I'm not trying to sound sexist, but this was the reality. You had rooms full of women, they were all women, that had IBM selectors in front of them. Right? Remember the IBM selectors? Yeah. And they would type out memos and things like that that were dictated, or the audio and all that. And there's a very famous story about a woman that was the head of an office full of women that did this kind of work. They were all working on IBM selectors. And she said, I heard about this new thing. They're making these computers. They're called computers. And you know what? I'm going to learn about these computers myself. And I'm going to find out if these computers are legitimate. Right? And then she looked into them and she said, they're tremendous. And this is the future. And she went and she bought a couple with her own money. And she started a training program where she trained every single woman that was in the shop that was just using an IBM Selectric that knew nothing about computers. So when computers came in the door, a few years later, instead of a whole group of 50 women being shoved out the door and downsized because we don't need you anymore, they already had the skills to go and become administrative assistants and still maintain their job. Right? So that's a skill set based threat that is dangerous to your personal brand as relates to your career. That's an example. You might not think of one. How about some areas for growth? Where have you grown in the last couple of years?
Well, definitely in the space of advertising and marketing, understanding marketing and advertising, how to help businesses with their advertising and marketing to grow their business. I've definitely found that in the last couple of years, which I think I can definitely use now in the chamber as that's what our goal is to help businesses and individuals grow.
Okay. Where do you want to go first?
Become a mentor. I want to become someone, a woman's mentor, and help young women, help.
Awesome. How about where is there a skill or several skills that you've developed that are not being recognized feels that they have a skill that's either not noticed or underutilized? Mark, raise your hand. Mark Hardy. Very good. I have my back turned. Right? Most people in the room, don't they? Why is that? Think about that. Why is that? Yes.
I want to answer that in a minute because I used to have that problem way back before I was in sales. And I think sales has actually helped me with being able to do that. So I think typically as people, we don't want to brag. We think that if we talk about what we're good at, that's bragging, and then people are going to look at us as egocentric and it's all about me. But I think it's how you deliver what you're good at so that you're not bragging, but you're showcasing who you are so that you can be used at work for what's needed. So
that's exactly right. There's a great book called Brag. Write it down. Brag. Brag. Somebody want to Google it for me so I get the title right? Brag. Just real quick. Mark, can you Google that for me? She's got it. What's it?
She is so on it, man.
I want to get the exact title right because it's a great title. Go to Amazon. Brag. The art of tuning your own horn without blowing it. Right? Somebody do blow their horn, that turns people on. How do you brag? The art of tuning your own horn without blowing it. Right? There's some subtlety there. There's some sophistication there. And Alma has stated something that's very true, that many of us don't do what I said in that slide yesterday when I asked, am I talking about developing a new persona? And the answer was no. And then what comes after the answer was, what we're talking about is fully and effectively presenting yourself, your full self, so that people can see who you are, what you can do, the skills that you possess. Remember that whole thing? A lot of us are afraid to do that because I have a very technical term for this. I call it being a chest thumper. Right? I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. And guess what? People don't generally like being around people that are so egotistical that they think they're the greatest. Now, you raised a point yesterday in our private conversation where you said, yeah, they do. Because a lot of people are attracted to those people. No, they really don't. What they're doing is they're being fooled by those people, right? They're being fooled by those people. But this element of effectively presenting yourself so that people will recognize who you are and what you do. If you present yourself, think about this. If you go into a situation and you say to the boss, man, woman, whatever happens to be, I'm not really happy because I'm this and I'm that, I'm getting overlooked this and I'm getting overlooked that, and I have more abilities, and I'm not happy here, and I'm. Exhibit A. Exhibit B. Hey Joe, I'd like to talk to you. I was thinking about something the other day. And I know that we're working in this area, and I know that we're trying to evolve in this area, and that we're going to need people with new skill sets, different skill sets, whatever the case may be. And I was thinking about it, and I have some experience in that space. And if you think it would be helpful to us, I'm going to dive into that some as well, because I think I can help us improve in this area. And for the good of the company, I'm willing to be a team player and do that. You see the difference in approach? What do you think is going to impress people? Right? If you're valuable exercise to you. I would absolutely recommend that you keep this as a part of your portfolio and that you review it once a year. Once a year, sit down and say, what are my skills? What are my weaknesses? You know, where have I grown that hasn't been noticed yet? How am I communicating such that you can see? Once a year. Because guess what the bottom line is? Who controls your personal professional brand? You do. You do. And if you're not focusing on your brand, and if you're not directing your personal professional brand, and if you're not managing your personal professional brand, which includes reflection and evaluation and all those kinds of things, communicating about your personal professional brand, nobody else is going to do it. You have to do it. Yes, Alan? The what part?
So one of the things that I guess it's a challenge, I don't see it as a threat, I see it as a challenge. When I was speaking with someone about a week ago about becoming a sponsor for one of our programs, and so I was going over the benefits of becoming a member of the Latin American Chamber of Commerce and tapping into a market that they may not always have access to. So at the end of the conversation, he came across as if he joined that he would be being racist. And I thought, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you're asking me to join a very specific group of people that are of this ethnicity. So then you're asking me to not be supportive of this group or this group or this group. And I was like, well, that's not what I'm asking. I'm just trying to present that this would give you access to this type of people. And he was like, well, I like everybody. And I go, so it's kind of like I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know how to deal with that. So I see that as a challenge, and I guess that falls under that threat.
Does anybody else want to respond to that? How do you feel that? Yes. All right, let's get the mic. Hold on a second. Who wants to respond? You want to respond? Say it all.
My chamber is, majority of my membership is non-Hispanic, and we're a Hispanic chamber. In my chamber, when I go out to the events, it's not about, well, I'm going to join the other chamber, I'm going to join the Hispanic chambers, because our non-Hispanic members are members because they want to do business with Hispanics. That's the whole thing. He wants to do business with Hispanics. That's what he said.
Well, that's what I said. He said, why would you ask me not to do business with someone who's this color?
No, he can do business with anybody he wants to. He's in a network with Hispanics and they're going business with.
Okay. Couple more.
Well, normally the way you respond to that is, I ask them, when you go and join the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, or if you join the Taylorsville Chamber of Commerce, or the Murray Chamber of Commerce, do you only want to do business with that city? Or do you expand your market by joining other cities' chambers of commerce? Are you segregated against the other cities? And they normally say, no, this is just a market, I want to tap into. Well, that's the same thing with that chamber.
Good. We'll go with one more. Just got our arms crossed. That's what it's on the page.
I think somebody like that just doesn't want to invest. They don't see the value. They haven't been convinced of the value. And it would be just like saying, you go to only one store, do you never go to any other store? Do you follow one philosophy or one policy? They just don't want to invest. They're looking for excuses. That's all that is. And we're going to find people like that because we find people like that all the time. Well, if I do you, then I have to invest in all of these. That's not true. They invest in whoever they want to. It's like all of this stuff going on with football, with NFL. They know what they want to know, and that's it. That's nothing against you or any of us. It's just those people have no recognition of the value of involving and working with the Latino community yet.
Okay. Good answers. Thank you. Let's move on to this one because I think you guys are going to really find this enlightening. So this is Steve Jobs. Anybody know who Steve Jobs is?
Oh, yeah.
Late Steve Jobs.
We know him.
You bring.
A really talented person who made a difference in business. This is Steve Jobs sharing his thoughts. He's going to say the word marketing in here. He's going to say the word advertising in here. Okay? And that could throw you off the message. Because it's really not about marketing. It's really not about advertising. Marketing and advertising are about communicating. Okay? And communicating with your audience. And letting your audience know what you're about, what you believe, what your vision is. Okay? This is a short clip. So I'd ask everybody to pay attention to this because it goes by quickly, and then we'll talk about it. But I think you're going to find this very interesting.
To me, marketing is about values. This is a very complicated world. It's a very noisy world. And we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No companies. And so we have to be really clear on what we want to know about us. Now, Apple, fortunately, is one of the half a dozen best brands in the world. Right up there, Nike, Disney, Coke, Sony. It is one of the greats of the greats. Not just in this country, but all around the world. But to me, a great brand needs investment and caring if it's going to retain its relevance and vitality. And the Apple brand has clearly suffered from neglect in this area of marketing. And we need to bring that. The way to do that is not to talk about speed and speed. It's not to talk about Mr. Mendoza. It's not to talk about why we're better than women. The dairy industry tried for 20 years to convince you that milk is good for you. A lie, but they tried anyway. And the sales are going like this. And then they tried Got Milk and the sales are going like this. Got Milk is being taught us what? I have to focus on the African question. But the best example of all, and one of the greatest jobs of marketing the universe has ever seen is Nike. Remember, Nike sold commodities. They sell shoes. And yet, when you think of Nike, you feel something different than the shoe. And their ads, as you know, they don't ever talk about the cost. They don't ever talk about the air soles, like the Reebok air soles. What's Nike doing? They honor great athletes. And they honor great athletes. That's who they are. That's what they are about. That was unfortunate. You never know. You never know. So, when I got here, Apple aspired to in competition with 23 agencies that 4 years from now was picked one. And we blew that up, and we hired Shire. I was fortunate to work with Neil Shaw. We created an award-winning award, including the commercial vote of best ads made by advertising professionals. And we started working by looking together. And the question we asked was, our customers want to know who's Apple and what is it that we stand for? Where do we fit in this world? And what we're about isn't making boxes for people to get their job, although we do that well. We do that better than almost anybody in some cases. But Apple's about something more than that. Apple, at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the way we live. That's what we do. And we have the opportunity to work with people like that. We've had an opportunity to work with people like you, with software developers, with customers who have some in some big, some small ways. And we believe that in this world, people can change it better. and that those people were crazy enough to think they could change the world are the ones that actually do. And so what we're going to do in our first brand marketing campaign in several years is to get back to that core value. A lot of things have changed, but we're at a totally different place than it was a decade ago. And Apple's totally different, Apple's placement is totally different, the beliefs, the product, and the distribution strategy, and that's like a totally different, you understand. But values and core values, those things shouldn't change. The things that Apple believes in at its core are the same things that Apple really stands for. And so, we wanted to find a way to communicate that. And what we have is something that I'm very good about. It honors those people who have changed the world. Some of them are living, some of them aren't. But the ones that aren't, as you'll see, you know that they ever knew because they would have been there. The people honoring the people who think different and who need the truth more. And it is what we are about. It touches the soul of this country. So I'm going to roll, and I hope that you feel the same about it. Here's to the crazy ones. Misfits, rebels, troublemakers, round heads with square holes, ones who see things clearly. They're not following rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. Even quoting, screaming, glorifying, or vilifying, the only thing you can do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And when Sunday sees them as the crazy ones, he sees Jesus. As the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
Pretty moving, isn't it? Pretty powerful. Hola. Remember how I said some people consider two different worlds? And their brain works? Yeah, right? It looks good on Carlos. It doesn't look good on me, does it? Sorry, too small.
Es tiempo de conversar. Me quedo preocupado con eso. O sea que está lleno que dice.
I'd like somebody to record this. What I'm about to say.
Es la que manda.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be egotistical here, but I'm definitely really passionate about this. And I just want somebody to have this in case I say something that you, as the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce or as the Hispanic community can use, okay? And you're certainly free to do so. What does he say? He says, we want people to know who we are and what we believe, what we stand for, right? two things. Two things, who we are and what we stand for. Whenever you teach, they tell you to teach in threes, no more than three. Because if you say I have 5 points, people lose it after 2 or 3. They do. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, right? St. Patrick taught the Holy Trinity by using the clover to explain it to the people in Ireland, the 3-leaf clover. Okay? Who we are and what we stand for. And then what was the next thing he said? Like all companies, we are not going to get very many people to hear us, to understand us. So this portion of communication and messaging is really important. Really important. Okay? There's something about that ad that's uplifting. It's uplifting. And he says, because this is about our values and our core values. And no matter what, those don't change. Our values and our core values don't change. So when Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and the 4 or 5 other people that started Apple were sitting around a table, probably in some shady little building because that's all they could afford, we're talking about what they wanted to do. They came up with core values that we're going to do something special, something unique, something that's never been done before. Maybe they were bold enough to say something that's going to change the world. And guess what? They did. They did. Everybody's looking for a product that's made out of their vision. Okay? But this element of what your core values are and what's uplifting and inspirational to other people, that can sort of act as a sweeper and grab people and sweep them up into your cause in a believing way, that they believe in you. Why did Obama win the election? Why did Obama win the election?
Change.
Because people were tired of Bush. And he presented, it was an anti-Bush's third term argument, right? And the other thing was he presented an image of hope and something different. And I'm going to lead you to this one. I will tell you, if you look at the elections for the last 50 years, whoever did a better job communicating their vision for the future in a hopeful way, that's who won the election. Reagan did it. Bush did it over the caucus. Clinton did it over Bush 41. Bush 43 did it over both of them. And Obama did it over both of them. Okay? This element of it's broad-shouldered, it's sweeping, and it's inspiring. Now, I want you to think about this. And there's no right or wrong answer, and maybe you've already got this. But as a U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, or as individual chapters of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Denver chapter, the Albuquerque chapter, the Philadelphia chapter, whatever, what is your messaging to people? What is that message? And does it let them know who you are? Does it let them know what you believe? Does it let them know what your core values are? In a very descriptive, moving, inspirational way. Nobody's going to sit there and listen to you for 25 minutes to tell your story, right? You've got to be able to say it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. This is what we're about. And this is what we're going to do. And I don't know what your slogans are. I don't know what your mission statements are. I don't know what your vision statements are. But if your vision statement is something like to help Latinos in the Hoboken community start a business, that's not inspirational. It might be true that that's a portion of what you're doing.
Right.
That's a subset, but that's not a broad, sweeping,
Inclusive.
enthusiastic, energetic vision that people are going to rally behind and be passionate about. If you said, we are going to help a whole generation of young Hispanic people come up in the United States, build businesses, build lives, build up their communities, and do great things in the world so that the next generation that comes after them is even better positioned to go higher and higher to make us a better community, a better state, a better country. That's something that people will rally behind. That's something that people can understand. That's something that people will be willing to partner with you on and jump on board. Right? It'll truly be a movement. So you have to think very carefully about this. And that message is very, very important. After watching that ad, and Steve Jobs described that ad, do you feel you know what Apple is about? Absolutely. Do you think you understand what their core values are? Absolutely. Do you think you would be more inclined to say, hey, if those guys are doing that, they're doing something special, I want to be a part of it, and if their special machine, if they're putting that much passion into that machine, and it's that special, they can help me do special things, and you're more likely to buy an Apple and be part of that? Of course you are. Of course you are. Okay? So this is really, really important. And it's not advertising. And it's not marketing. And it's not salesmanship or tricking people or convincing people to buy something that they don't even need, like some people think about marketing and advertising and sales and all those kinds of things. It's about expressing who you are and what you believe at your core and what you're doing. Okay? Really, really important. And I would encourage all of you to think about that, to take that back to your various workplaces, to reflect on it, to talk with others about it, to really work hard on getting your story, getting your message down to see people can tell who you are, what you do, what you're about, in a very exciting, descriptive, passionate way. Okay? Thank you. I'm not done, Mark. I'm not done. Oh. I'm not done. I'm just done with that section. I told you I'm going to get fired up. I didn't believe it. And make sure you sign the sign sheet. All right. This piece here I want to talk about quickly is a story. And this is a story for any of you that are in the world, in the room, that are in business. Or want to be in business, who are working with a chapter to help other people with business. The main theme of dollars and tens of thousands of people to be employed and millions of dollars to be made in the shadows. I'm not talking about drugs. I'm not talking about prostitution. I'm not talking about human trafficking. I'm not talking about any illegal activity. A friend of mine went to Israel 15 years ago. And he went over to Israel and he walked around and he said, my God, it's so different than the United States. Everybody's got these little things that they're carrying around in their purse, in their pocket. They're called a cell phone. A cell phone. And everybody in Israel's got them. Everybody. And if everybody in Israel's got them, guess what? It's just a matter of time before they come to the United States. There's an opportunity. I can see it coming. Remember the previous line? When you see something that other people don't he says, okay, I've evaluated the business, and there's going to be people that make these things right here, the machine itself. And that's a capital-intensive business, and I don't have the money or the resources to do that. And then there's going to be people that, the big phone companies probably, that are going to offer this service, right, to subscribers. You might have Sprint, you might have AT&T, you might have Verizon, whatever. And again, I don't have the money. I don't have the resources to play in that game. That's not going to be a space that I'm trying to occupy. But guess what? Each and every single one of these businesses are going to need cell phone towers that bounces the signal. And they're going to need thousands of them. Right? Is it a sexy business? Probably not. Gotta be selling phones. Gotta be making ads and putting them on TV. Hi, I'm Dan Hesse, the CEO of Sprint. Let me tell you about our friends and family plan. Wouldn't you rather be that than be the guy that I built a cell phone tower business? But he comes up with the idea somebody's going to have to build these cell phone towers. There's a lot of money to be made in this. And he comes up with a business plan and he gets funding and he goes around building thousands and thousands and thousands of cell phone towers. To the point where when he sells his business, he's now got his own venture capital fund. He's also got a house in Laguna Beach, California. He's got a house in Beta, British Columbia, and he owns an old monastery chateau in France, which he paid over $1 million for. Okay? There's money to be made in the shadows. There's businesses to be built in the shadows. In the areas where people think that's not sexy, everybody goes to where it's sexy. Right? They're attracted to that. Look for opportunities in the shadows. It's real, really, really there, and it always will be, because human nature is to go to the bright light. This story here, the 29-year-old, is about a friend of mine that was working for IBM, and his career wasn't going anywhere. Working for IBM. And he went to talk to the high-ranking alumnus at IBM, and the alumnus said, we don't know if we don't know where you're from. You guys don't want to do someday when I grow up. Yeah, I don't know if you do it. What do you mean? I got a great education, I got a master's degree, I got my whole life in front of me, I'm 29 years old. What do you mean? How can you be writing me off like that? The guy says, we've never seen you solve a single problem. What do you mean? Nobody's giving me the problem. Excuse me, Jim. This is IBM. People are not going to give you a problem. We're a big company. We have all kinds of issues, all kinds of problems. Go find a problem, put a team together, and fix it. Either stop it from costing the company money, or turn around and make the money. Right? So he does that. He gets himself on the radar screen, changes the trajectory of his whole career. 37 years later, he's our highest ranking alumnus at IBM. But it all started there. Prior to that, he was cubicle boy. Literally, of his own admission, he was cubicle boy. There's also a story about a person that was in sales. He had a product. And the product was some sort of paving material that went on asphalt. And he said, I can make my whole year if I can go and I can sell the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. All I got to do is sell this one account and I've made my number for the year. And he goes to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and he asks the track manager, he talks about his product, and he says, yeah, I'm really not interested. said, Omar, what's the biggest problem that you have here in your operations? Can anybody in this room ask that question? What's the biggest problem that you have? And the guy said, you know what? The biggest nightmare that I have are those damn grandstands. They get beer spilled all over them, they get little kids with cotton candy, they get bubble gum stuck in the seats. Those things drive me crazy. If you've got a product that can clean those and keep those clean, I'm very interested. By asking one question, he discovered an opportunity, and guess what? He made more money on selling them the product that he created than he would if he would have gotten the track. So, a business in the shadows. Okay? Look for those. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with the aspirin example, right? Perceptual mapping. Tell me about, I want to have this be a discussion here. Tell me about somebody in their work where part of what you're doing is identifying the value. Yes, sir. Hold on, we didn't like mine. Right over there. Alfred. Right there.
Chamber.
Yeah.
Other data. We have a unique situation. We're not really wanted as a Hispanic chamber in our community. All the chambers merged at the very time that we were created. And the biggest employer in town said we will not fund you unless you merge with the one chamber. So our challenge in identifying value is why should we exist? What do we have that's different from the other chamber? What value do we bring to the community?
To your community, to your stakeholders, exactly. Exactly. Yes, Carlos. Put the hat on, Carlos. I want the full Carlos experience here.
This is the reason we exist, because the Hispanic Chamber provides advocacy and representation for small business that no other chamber does. That is where we're missing the boat. Matter of fact, you can join me tomorrow, we're going to be interviewed over here about that. But in any case, that is the reason why we have the value that we provide, the communication that we provide, and what you're going through, we experimented in Napa County, Hispanic Chamber, Napa County many years ago. And we all going through that because now everybody in the U.S. Hispanic Chamber is identifying working with the African American Chamber, the Asian Chamber. That is great. But we are the ones who provide value to the biggest majority.
Give me an example really quickly of creating the value because of the chamber. Yes.
El mundo pertenece a los que hablan.
Communicate the value. How do you communicate the value out there, Mark?
Thank you. I'm really grateful that my name has been brought up so many times. But honestly, I've been through a struggle the last 7 months as I was hired to take over the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And so I had to do all those 4 things here. And the biggest symbol that I have is you can go to my Facebook page or the Facebook page of the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and you can see we had our celebratory signature event last week when we debuted our new PSA. So I think that's an example of how we deliver the value. And we did so in a pro bono fashion, so I hope you have a chance to see our message that we've created and that we're now communicating.
Okay. And then delivering the value, of course, is making sure that the things that you say you're going to do to your and for your constituency, that you actually do those, so you provide that value, right? We're running out of time here. I got too passionate about that whole Hispanic vision, I'm sorry. But this is something that you should take with you. This is going to be coming around, this wheel. This is another exercise that could be very valuable to you. And if you could just look at this for a second so that you can understand as you take this home with you. This is you in the center of the wheel. You in your organizational role, okay? These people out here are the various stakeholders that you interact with. They could be partners, they could be members, they could be educational institutions, they could be whatever. So you should fill, this is you, this is your stakeholders, okay? And then what you put in these boxes here is what is your primary role towards those stakeholders. Are you an educator? Are you an advocate? Are you a partner? Or, what are the roles that you play? And if you look at this and you say, here's the stakeholders that we have, and here's the roles that we fulfill with each of them, it will tell you what you're doing, what you're good at, maybe where you're spending too much time, maybe where you're spending not enough time, maybe where you don't, an area where you don't have enough core competency, okay? But this is a really valuable institutional exercise as it relates to your efforts with your brand toward your stakeholders. I'll close with this last statement. Okay? To be effective in building and managing your brand, you got to recognize that you are. You got to make strong first impressions. You obviously got to deliver results. Results are really, really important. The quickest way to blow up your brand is not to deliver results. I told you all to do at least one thing each year. You should be evaluating your personal brand at least once a year. Okay? Monitor your social media. Don't do anything stupid on social media like we talked about. Right? There are good things that you can do, and there are stupid things. And if you have a moment's hesitancy about this might be bad, don't put it out there. Because even a tinge in the back of your neck, don't put it out there. Okay? And branding takes commitment. It's like a relationship. I always say this. Hey, Captain, you're Captain? Captain, can I ask you one bill? Would you like to get married? No, right? Because nobody gets married on the first date, right? It takes dating. It takes making dinner for each other, going to a movie, eating each other's families, right? It takes nourishment. And your business and your personal professional brand takes effort and attention and nourishment as well. I think we're probably over, so I'll let you go. But thank you guys so much for your time and attention.
Great. La vez.